The giant metal building floated in space like a small moon. Inside, thousands of alien beings gathered in the main hall. Their skin colors ranged from green to purple to silver. Some had tentacles instead of arms. Others had multiple eyes or strange wings. They were the members of the Galactic Senate, the most powerful group in the known universe. Ambassador Krex walked to the center of the hall. His blue skin sparkled under the bright lights. His forearms moved in careful patterns as he spoke. "Senators, we have received a message from the Sol system," he announced. "A new species wants to join our council. They call themselves humans." The crowd buzzed with excitement. New species rarely contacted the Senate. When they did, it usually meant they wanted something. Trade agreements, protection from enemies. Sometimes they came with threats. "Show us the message," demanded Senator Vorthak. The old Zatari's red eyes glowed with suspicion. A large screen appeared in the air. A human face looked back at them. The being had pale skin and brown hair. 2 eyes. 1 mouth, so simple looking. "Greetings," the human said. "I am Captain Andrew Wells of the United Earth Federation. We wish to introduce ourselves to your great council." The senators leaned forward. Here it comes, they thought. The demands, the threats, the show of power. Instead, Captain Wells smiled. "We understand many worlds in your outer regions face hardships. We offer our medical knowledge to help with disease. We can share our food production methods to end hunger. Our teachers can help educate children on planets that lack schools." The hall fell silent. This was not what they expected. Commissioner Hex clicked his mechanical fingers together. "What do you want in return?" he asked. "Nothing," Captain Wells replied. "We believe helping others makes the galaxy stronger. When everyone has enough food and medicine, we all benefit." Dr. Lisa Park stepped beside the captain. She had kind eyes and spoke softly. "Our species believes in something we call cooperation. We work together not because we must, but because we choose to." Ambassador Krex felt confused. In his 300 years, no species had ever offered help without wanting something back. There had to be a trick. "You speak of giving aid freely," he said, "but what of your military? Your weapons? Your claim to star systems?" Captain Wells looked surprised. "We have defenses, of course, but we're not here to threaten anyone. We're here to make friends." Senator Vorthak spoke up. "In our experience, beings who offer free help usually have hidden plans. What is your real purpose?" Dr. Park stepped forward. "Our purpose is simple, Senator. We've learned that kindness makes everyone stronger. When we help others, they often help us back. But even if they don't, we still helped. That's enough for us." The aliens looked at each other. This was disturbing. In their world, strength meant taking what you wanted. Power meant making others fear you. But these humans seemed to think the opposite. "We'll consider your offer," Ambassador Krex said finally. "Our medical teams will review your data. Our traders will examine your proposals." "Thank you," Captain Wells said. "We'll wait for your answer. In the meantime, we're already prepared to help with the plague on the Zatari moon. We have vaccines ready if needed." The screen went dark. The hall erupted in confused chatter. "They offered help before we accepted them," whispered Commissioner Hex. "They know about our plague," muttered Senator Vorthak. "But they offer help, not trade deals." Ambassador Krex called for quiet. "We must study these humans carefully. Something about them doesn't fit our understanding of how species behave." As the senators filed out, many shook their heads in wonder. Never before had a species offered so much while asking for so little. It was strange. It was uncomfortable. It was terrifying. 3 months passed since the humans first spoke to the Galactic Senate. The senators had almost forgotten about them. They were too busy dealing with their own problems. The worst problem was on Zatari Prime, the homeworld of the proud Zatari people. A terrible sickness had spread across the planet. Millions were dying. The disease made their red skin turn black. Their breathing became difficult. Children were the most affected. Senator Vorthak stood in his medical center, watching dying patients. His people were proud. Too proud to ask for help. They would rather die than show weakness to other species. "Sir," his assistant said, "the human ships have arrived." "What human ships?" Vorthak roared. "We didn't call them. They came anyway. They say they have medicine for our people." Vorthak rushed outside. 5 human ships floated above the city. They were not warships. They looked like mobile hospitals. Strange machines were already landing. Dr. John Martinez stepped off the first ship. He was tall with kind eyes. Behind him came dozens of humans in white clothes. They carried boxes and medical equipment. "Senator Vorthak," Dr. Martinez said with a bow, "we came as soon as we heard about your plague." "We didn't ask for help," Vorthak said angrily. "We can handle our own problems." "Of course you can," Dr. Martinez replied calmly. "But you don't have to handle them alone." The humans began setting up their equipment. They worked quickly but carefully. Some built temporary hospitals. Others mixed medicines. A few humans went directly to the sickest patients. "Stop," Vorthak shouted. "You can't treat our people without permission." Dr. Martinez turned. "Senator, children are dying. Every minute we waste means more deaths. Will you really let pride kill your people?" Vorthak hesitated. A small Zetari girl lay nearby. She was barely breathing. Her mother cried beside her. One of the human doctors, a woman named Ellen, knelt beside them. "May I help her?" Ellen asked gently. The mother nodded through her tears. Ellen gave the child a shot. Within minutes, the girl's breathing improved. Her black skin began to show hints of red again. "How?" Vorthak whispered. "We studied the plague from the samples you released to medical journals," Dr. Martinez explained. "We've been working on vaccines and treatments. We brought enough for everyone." "What do you want in return?" Vorthak asked. This had to be a trick. "Nothing," Dr. Martinez said simply. "Your people are suffering. We can help. That's all that matters." Over the next days, humans worked without rest. They didn't eat local food, bringing their own to avoid taking resources. They slept in shifts, always keeping some doctors awake to help patients. A human nurse named Mark stayed with elderly Zetari patients. Another human, Dr. Patricia, taught Zetari doctors how to make the vaccine. They shared everything freely. Senator Vorthak watched a human woman risk her life to save a Zetari child who had bitten her. She still smiled and sang to calm the scared child. This was madness. Who risked themselves for strangers? After a week, the plague was under control. The death rate dropped to almost zero. Humans had saved millions of Zetari lives. They prepared to leave. "Wait," Vorthak called. "We must pay you something. Gold, rare metals, technology." Dr. Martinez shook his head. "The only payment we want is your health. If you want to thank us, just remember this kindness. Maybe help someone else who needs it." As the human ships left, Vorthak stood in his command center. His assistant brought reports. Other Senate members were calling. They had heard what happened. "Sir," the assistant said, "the other senators are concerned. They say the humans are using our weakness against us." Vorthak looked at his healthy people outside. Children played who would have died. Families reunited who would have been separated forever. "Yes," he said slowly. "They used our weakness against us. They turned it into strength. Do you understand how terrifying that is? They made us stronger by showing us kindness. What species does that?" In his private moment, Vorthak felt something he had never experienced before: debt to strangers, gratitude to aliens. Most frightening of all, he felt the urge to help others the way humans had helped them. The humans had not conquered them with weapons. They had conquered them with something far more dangerous: compassion. and Vorthak wasn't sure how to defend against it. Space Station Alpha 7 floated near the busy trade routes of the galaxy. For 300 years, it served as a trading post where different species came to buy and sell goods. The station was known for its tough negotiations and hard deals. Commissioner Hex ran the station. He was proud of how much profit they made. Workers at the station came from dozens of poor worlds. They worked 16 hours a day for little pay. That's how business had always worked. Then the humans arrived. Captain Maria Lopes docked her trading ship on a quiet Tuesday. She looked normal enough. 2 arms, 2 legs, brown skin, black hair. Nothing special. Commissioner Hex met her at the docking bay. "Welcome to Alpha 7, he said in his best business voice. "What do you want to buy? What do you have to sell?" Maria smiled. "We want to set up a permanent trading post. We bring food, medicines, and tools from Earth." "Good." Hex nodded. "What percentage of profits do you want?" "We usually split 60-40 in our favor." "Oh, we don't want profits," Maria said. "We want fair prices for everyone." Hex blinked. "Fair prices?" "Yes. We sell things at cost, plus a small amount to cover transport. We want the workers here to afford what they need." This was strange. In Hex's experience, traders always wanted maximum profit. That's how the galaxy worked. The strong took from the weak. "And what about the workers?" Hex asked. "You'll hire cheap labor like everyone else." Maria looked confused. "Hire? We prefer partnerships. We work with people, not own them." The next day, humans began setting up their trading post. But something was wrong. They paid workers 3 times the normal rate. They provided free meals. Strangest of all, they gave workers breaks. A Freulian worker named Zek hadn't had a day off in 2 years. Maria gave him a whole week vacation to visit his family. She paid for his trip. "Why?" Zek asked, tears in his large eyes. "Because everyone deserves rest," Maria replied. "Tired workers make mistakes. Happy workers do better jobs." Commissioner Hex watched from his office. This was madness. If workers expected breaks and good pay, his whole system would collapse. He called Maria to his office. "You're disrupting our economy," he said. "Workers are demanding higher wages now. They want time off. They're forming groups to demand rights." "That's wonderful," Maria said. "Workers should have rights." "But the profit," Hex shouted. "The system. How will we make money?" "You'll make less money per hour," Maria explained calmly. "But workers will stay longer, work better, and buy more things. Happy people spend money. Poor people can't." Hex didn't understand. His profits had always come from paying workers little and charging buyers much. That was business. Days passed. The human trading post grew popular. They sold good food at fair prices. They offered medicine that actually worked. Their tools lasted longer than others. Other traders complained to Hex. "The humans are ruining everything. Workers won't accept our terms anymore." A group of alien merchants demanded action. They're teaching workers to read contracts. They're explaining worker rights. This must stop. Commissioner Hex called an emergency meeting with the merchant guilds. "We must remove the humans," declared Merchant Lord Yaktos. "They're destroying our way of business." "But their section of the station makes more money than any other," Hex admitted. "Workers there produce twice as much. Crime is down. Sickness is down. That's the problem." Yaktos slammed his tentacle on the table. "If workers everywhere expect decent treatment, we'll have to change everything." Hex looked at the numbers again. Human-operated sections had more sales, better quality, and fewer complaints. Workers were happier. Even he had noticed the difference. "Commissioner," said his assistant, "the workers in all sections are forming something called a union. They're asking for human-style contracts." Hex felt cold fear. The humans hadn't conquered the station with weapons. They had conquered it with fairness. They showed workers what was possible. Now those workers wanted the same thing. Send a report to the Senate, Hex said quietly. The humans are using economic warfare. They're not stealing our money. They're teaching our workers that they deserve better than we give them. Outside his window, Hex watched humans and aliens working together. They shared lunch. They laughed. They looked happy. For the first time in his long life, Hex understood fear. Not fear of guns or armies. Fear of a species that could destroy everything he knew simply by being kind to workers. The humans weren't just changing business. They were changing what people expected from life. And that was terrifying. The old Koraxian mine had been closed for 20 years. Deep underground on the dead planet Xurian 4, it was dangerous and forgotten. Until a cheap mining company decided to squeeze out the last minerals. 200 workers from different worlds worked in the deep tunnels. They were mostly poor beings desperate for any job. The company paid them little and gave them old equipment. Then disaster struck. A tunnel collapse. Then another. Soon 20 levels of the mine were sealed shut. 200 workers were trapped 3 miles underground with no way out. The mining company held an emergency meeting. Company President Vex looked at his board. Numbers floated in the air showing rescue costs. The rescue would cost more than the workers are worth. Vex said coldly, "We write them off as acceptable losses." "But sir," said a junior manager, "we'll face lawsuits from the families." "Cheaper than a rescue," Vex replied. "Seal the mine. Say it's too dangerous to enter." The families of trapped workers gathered outside the mine. They begged for help. Some had savings and offered everything they owned. It wasn't enough. Admiral Zeph of the Galactic Defense Force watched from orbit. This wasn't a military matter. The workers weren't soldiers. They weren't citizens of any major power. They had no value to the galaxy's rulers. "Let them die," his advisor said. "Mining accidents happen. It's not our problem." Then human ships appeared. Kate Reynolds stepped out of the lid ship. She was an engineer who had spent 20 years digging tunnels on Earth. Behind her came teams of human rescue workers, miners, and medics. "Who authorized this?" Admiral Zeph demanded over the radio. "No one," Kate replied simply. "We heard about the accident. We came to help. These aren't your people. This isn't your mine. You have no responsibility here." Kate looked at the sealed mine entrance. 200 beings are trapped. They're going to die. That's all the reason we need. The humans began working immediately. They brought massive drilling machines, cutting tools, and cave-in supports. They worked in shifts, 24 hours a day. Kate led teams down into the dangerous tunnels. Every few hours, another cave-in threatened. Toxic gases leaked from deep chambers. The humans pressed on. On the third day, Admiral Zeph landed. "You're risking valuable lives for worthless workers," he said to Kate. Kate was covered in dirt and exhaustion. "Worthless. They're people. They have families. You could die down there. What's the point?" "The point is that we don't leave people to die when we can save them." By the fourth day, they had reached the first group of trapped workers, 11 aliens, barely alive. The humans gave them water, food, and hope. "We're human rescue," Kate told them. "We're going to get you out." One worker, a Frullian named Zik, could barely speak. "But why? We're strangers." "Doesn't matter," Kate said. "You're alive. That's enough." The rescue took 6 days total. Humans worked without rest. They shared their food with trapped workers. When human worker Sam got injured in a cave-in, he insisted others continue while he was carried out. All 200 workers were saved. Not one human gave up. Not one human asked for payment. As the last worker emerged, the families wept with joy. They offered the humans everything they had. Jewelry, family treasures, their life savings. Kate shook her head. "Keep it. You'll need it to rebuild your lives." Admiral Zeph stood watching. His ship's computer recorded everything. The report would go to the Galactic Senate. "Computer analysis," he asked. The humans risked 63 lives to save workers they had never met. Total cost, 17 million credits. Reward requested, 0. Strategic advantage gained, none. Then why did they do it? Unknown. They claim it was simply the right thing to do. Admiral Zeph felt disturbed. In his military mind, everything had purpose. Every action had strategic value. But humans had gained nothing except hired, dirty workers. As the human ships prepared to leave, Admiral Zeph spoke to Kate one last time. "I don't understand your people," he admitted. Kate smiled sadly. "We save lives because they're worth saving, not because it benefits us." "That's what scares me," Zeph muttered. "A species that values life over profit, that acts on compassion instead of logic. What kind of war could we fight against beings like that?" The human ships left. The family celebrated. And somewhere in the galaxy's records, Admiral Zeph's report became part of the growing file labeled The Human Problem. The planet Cathera was known for three things: beautiful purple sunsets, rich mineral deposits, and terrible schools. Most children couldn't read. Those who could were taught only basic skills to work in the mines. The ruling class liked it this way. Smart workers asked dangerous questions. It was better to keep them ignorant. Then human ships arrived carrying teachers and books. Sarah Johnson stepped off the transport with 20 other human educators. She carried tablet computers, learning games, and art supplies. Behind them came boxes of books translated into every language on the planet. Chancellor Morgex met them at the spaceport. He was a tall Catherian with silver skin and suspicious eyes. "What brings teachers to our world?" he asked. "We heard your children need schools," Sarah replied with a warm smile. "We're here to help. We didn't ask for help. Our children learn what they need to learn." "Every child deserves a full education," said Tom Bradley, another teacher. "Reading, math, science, history, art. These things make life richer." Chancellor Morgex frowned. "Art, history. What use were these things?" The humans set up schools in empty buildings. They invited all children, not just the wealthy ones. Rich and poor children sat next to each other. This had never happened before. Sarah taught reading using funny stories instead of boring rules. Children laughed as they learned. Tom taught math with games. Kids who once hated numbers now competed to solve problems. But it was the history lessons that caused real trouble. Dr. Emily Watson taught Catherian history honestly. She showed how past rulers had taken land from common people. She explained how the current leaders kept most people poor on purpose. A young Catherian named Lex raised his hand. "You mean our government lies to us?" "Sometimes powerful people tell stories that help them stay powerful," Dr. Watson said carefully. "That's why learning to think for yourself is important." This was dangerous talk. Within a month, children were asking questions at home. "Why can't I read these laws?" A young Catherian asked her father. "Why do we work so hard but stay poor?" Another asked his mother. "What happened to the old forests before the mines came?" Parents brought these questions to the authorities. Chancellor Morgex called an emergency council meeting. "The human teachers are spreading dangerous ideas," he declared. "Our children now question everything." Counselor Urix leaned forward. "They're teaching critical thinking. This threatens our entire system." "Remove them," suggested General Vass. "Send the humans away." But another counselor shared troubling news. The mining productivity has increased by 30%. Children who can read work more efficiently. They make fewer mistakes. This was the dilemma. The humans made better workers, but also created thinking citizens. Meanwhile, human teacher Jack Peters taught art class. "Draw what you see," he told students. "Draw how you feel." Children drew pictures of beautiful Cathera before the ugly mines. They drew families divided by work schedules. They drew dreams of other planets. One child drew a picture showing poor families sharing food while rich families ate alone. The picture spread through the city like wildfire. Chancellor Morgex visited the main human school. He watched Sarah teach mathematics using real examples. If a government takes 90% of mining profits, Sarah said as an example, and workers get 5%, who gets the rest? A young student raised her hand. Is that what happens here? Sarah smiled. What do you think? Look at the evidence. That evening, Counselor Urix sent a message to the Galactic Senate. The humans call it education, but it's war. They're creating generations of citizens who expect truth, justice, and fairness. They're not just teaching facts. They're teaching children to question power itself. He paused before adding the most terrifying part. And our own children are becoming smarter than us. 3 months later, young Catharians formed study groups. They read banned books. They questioned laws. They demanded better representation. The humans had given them the most dangerous weapon of all, the ability to think. Chancellor Morgex stared out his window at children playing games that taught them about democracy and justice. They laughed while learning things that would reshape their world. How do you fight an enemy that conquers by teaching your children to think for themselves? He wondered aloud. His advisor had no answer. The humans had won another planet, not through force, but through knowledge. And unlike military conquests, this victory was permanent. Once a mind learned to question, it could never go back to blind obedience. The teachers were more dangerous than any army. The Braceri Empire had conquered dozens of worlds. They were fierce warriors with blood-red skin and black armor. For 500 years, they had solved every problem with weapons. Now they prepared to invade the peaceful Maluri system. The gentle Maluri were farmers and artists. They had no army, no weapons, only gardens and singing. General Krex stood on his warship's bridge. Below him, 1 million Braceri soldiers waited in transport ships. Each soldier carried weapons that could destroy cities. The Maluri have something we want, Krex told his officers. Their planet grows the healing fruit our people need. We take it. They die. Simple. The attack would begin at dawn. Then a small ship appeared. It carried no weapons, no shields, just a single human diplomat named Robert Chen. General Krex. Robert's voice came through their radio. I request permission to board. You're not involved in this war, Krex growled. Leave now. I'm a mediator. I help different species solve problems without fighting. Krex laughed. The sound was like thunder. Mediator. We don't need words. We have weapons. Sometimes words work better than weapons. May I show you something? Against his better judgment, Krex allowed the human to board. Robert came alone with only a small bag. You have 5 minutes, Krex said. Robert opened his bag. Inside were old stones covered with symbols. These are from your homeworld, he said calmly. Krex's eyes widened. Those markings are ancient Braceri. How do you have them? We found them on 12 different worlds, including the Maluri homeworld. Robert showed images on a small device. The same symbols appeared on both Braceri and Maluri ruins. Your peoples were once the same, Robert explained. 5,000 years ago, a disaster split your species. Half became warriors who left the homeworld. Half became farmers who stayed. You are not enemies. You are family. General Krex's hands shook. Impossible. Look at the evidence. Your bloodline markers. Your ancient stories. The Maluri still sing songs about the lost brothers who rode the stars. Robert played a recording. A Maluri choir sang in their ancient language. It was a sad song about family separated by the void. Krex understood some words. They were old Braceri. Lies, he whispered. But doubt crept into his voice. I have genetic records, Robert continued. Archaeological evidence. Historical data. Would you like to meet a Maluri elder who remembered the old stories? Hours passed. Krex studied the evidence. He spoke with Maluri historians through video calls. They shared stories that matched Braceri legends. The truth was overwhelming. The Braceri and Maluri came from the same people. But we are warriors, Krex said weakly. They are farmers. You became what you needed to be to survive, Robert replied. They became what they needed to be. But inside, you're still the same people. Even if this is true, my emperor expects conquest. Robert nodded. What if instead of conquest, you chose reunion? 2 days later, Krex contacted his emperor. He explained everything. The emperor was furious. You will attack as planned. The emperor roared. My lord, Krex said quietly. They are our lost brothers. The emperor's anger faded. Brothers. Krex shared the evidence. The emperor studied it for hours. Finally, he spoke. Bring me these Maluri elders. I must hear their stories myself. The planned attack became a celebration. Brasari and Maluri met as family reunited after thousands of years. They shared food, stories, and tears. General Krex found Robert as the celebrations continued. You stopped a war without firing a shot, Krex said. How? Robert smiled. We didn't stop anything. We just reminded everyone who they really were. Your species is dangerous, Krex admitted. You fight with truth, with emotions, with connections between hearts. Is that dangerous? Krex watched his warriors laugh with Maluri farmers. Yes. How do we defend against compassion? How do we fight hearts that understand us better than we understand ourselves? Robert had no answer for that. The humans had won again, not through force, but through something far more powerful. They had won through understanding. And that terrified the galaxy more than any weapon ever could. The Galactic Senate building hummed with nervous energy. Emergency meetings were rare. This one was urgent. Chairman Yeltox called the session to order. His green skin looked paler than usual. Behind him, a massive screen showed data from across the galaxy. Fellow senators, Yeltox began, we have a problem. The humans. The hall filled with murmurs. Everyone knew about human activities. Medical aid, rescue missions, fair trade, education, peaceful resolutions. They have not attacked anyone, Senator Vorthak said from the back. His red skin now showed healthy color thanks to human medicine. They have not claimed any territory. Exactly, Yeltox replied. That is the problem. New data appeared on the screen. Trade networks, medical statistics, education levels, battle resolutions. Commissioner Hex spoke up. In 16 months, humans have disrupted economic systems on 47 stations. Workers now demand rights. Traders face pressure for fair deals. They have ended 3 major conflicts without firing a shot. Admiral Zeph added, our military strategists cannot understand their methods. Counselor Urix shared disturbing news. Human schools have spread to 112 worlds. Children everywhere now question authority. They ask for rights. They demand explanations. Chairman Yeltox highlighted the worst part. Every planet they touch becomes harder to control. Not because they rebel, but because they think. The screen showed before and after images. Worlds where humans worked look different. Cleaner, happier, more organized, but also more independent. We must discuss the true danger, Yeltox continued. Their kindness is strategic warfare. The hall erupted in arguments. They saved my people. Vorthak shouted. They disrupted our profits, replied a merchant guild representative. They stopped a war between my species and the Maluri, added a Brasari official. Exactly. Yeltox slammed his staff. Each act of kindness weakens our traditional power structures. Dr. Lucy Stone, a human psychologist, entered the hall. She had been invited to explain human behavior. Her presence caused silence. Senators, she said calmly, I understand your confusion. Explain your species' strategy, demanded Senator Jackros. What do you truly want? Lucy smiled sadly. There is no strategy. We simply believe all thinking beings deserve dignity, health, and freedom to learn. Impossible, Yeltox said. Every species seeks advantage. Not every species, Lucy replied. We learned long ago that helping others ultimately helps ourselves. But that's not why we do it. Then why? Asked Counselor Urix. Because suffering is wrong, regardless of who suffers. The senators looked at each other with growing fear. This was worse than they thought. You mean you're not pretending? Hex asked weakly. No pretense, Lucy confirmed. Kindness is not a tool for us. It's who we are. The implications shocked everyone. If humans genuinely cared about strangers, if they truly believed all beings deserved basic rights, then everything changed. This is war, Yeltox declared. They attacked the very foundation of how we've organized society for millennia. Without weapons, Admiral Zeph added quietly, how do you fight an enemy that conquers with compassion? Dr. Lucy Stone looked around the worried faces. You don't fight us, senators. You join us. Join you in what? Vorthek asked. In building a galaxy where everyone has enough food, medical care, education, and freedom. Where no one rules through fear or ignorance. The silence was deafening. Finally, Chairman Yeltox spoke. This vote will determine our future. Do we resist the humans, or do we accept their dangerous idea that all beings deserve dignity? As senators prepared to vote, many realized a terrifying truth. The humans had already won. Not through conquest, but through example. They had shown the galaxy what was possible. Now billions of beings wanted the same kindness, fairness, and opportunity that humans offered. The choice was simple: war against an idea that had already spread across the stars, or adaptation to a new way of living. Either way, the old galaxy was ending. And perhaps that was what the senators feared most of all. The voting chamber was silent except for the hum of machines. Each senator held a small device. Red for war against humans. Green for accepting their way. Chairman Yeltox looked at his own device. Around him, representatives from 1,000 worlds waited. Before we vote, said President Jack Morrison of the Human Federation, let me say one thing. The senators listened. We didn't come to your galaxy to rule you, Jack said calmly. We came to serve alongside you. That's what we do. That's who we are. Even if we vote against you, asked Senator Vorthek. Especially then, Jack replied. If you choose war, we'll defend ourselves, but we'll also keep offering aid to any world that wants it. Chairman Yeltox shook his head. You would help your enemies. We would help anyone who suffers, Dr. Lucy Stone added. Enemy is a choice. Suffering is something we try to end. The vote began. Lights flickered on the central board, red and green, side by side. The count ended. 1,247 votes for adaptation. 1,246 votes for war. One vote made the difference. The last vote came from the Coraxian representative, the being who came from the planet where humans had saved 200 miners. I vote green, she said, for my people saw humans risk their lives for strangers. How can we fight such hearts? Chairman Yeltox announced the result. The Galactic Senate chooses adaptation. Celebrations mixed with protests. Some worlds welcomed the decision. Others prepared for civil war. But something unexpected happened in the months that followed. On worlds that tried human methods, life improved. Disease rates dropped. Education levels rose. Worker satisfaction increased. Even profits grew in many sectors. 3 years later, historian Gox published his famous work. He wrote, "The human conquest was unlike any in galactic history. They took no territory. They demanded no tribute. They wanted no slaves. Instead, they gave gifts that transformed everything. Medicine, knowledge, fairness, and hope." Admiral Zeph retired from military service. He now ran a school for former soldiers on his homeworld. Commissioner Hex turned his station into a model for fair trade. Workers there had shorter hours, better pay, and something new called job satisfaction. General Krex became an ambassador between the Bursari and Mullary. The two peoples now shared stories, food, and children. Senator Vorthek established hospitals across his system. Some were run by humans, others by Zeteri who had learned human methods. All followed a simple rule: heal first, ask about payment later. Chancellor Morgix watched children from his planet attend universities across the galaxy. They returned with new ideas and old wisdom. His world was changing, but change no longer frightened him. The humans had won the most complete victory in galactic history. They conquered not through strength, but through making others stronger. They ruled not by fear, but by inspiring hope. As Jack Morrison said in his final speech to the Senate, "We discovered that the scariest thing humans can do is be genuinely kind. Not because kindness is weak, but because it's contagious. Once beings see what fair treatment feels like, they cannot accept less. Once children learn to think freely, they cannot be easily controlled. Once people experience compassion, they begin to demand it everywhere." The galaxy had changed forever. The old ways of ruling through fear and ignorance crumbled. In their place rose something new, a civilization built on mutual aid and shared dignity. The human revolution wasn't fought with weapons. It was fought with opened hearts, extended hands, and the terrifying belief that everyone deserved better. And that belief had won. Years later, when young beings learned about the old galaxy in school, they couldn't understand how anyone had lived that way. The idea of ruling through cruelty seemed as foreign as breathing water. The humans had given the galaxy the most dangerous gift of all: the knowledge that things could be better. And once you know things can be better, you can never go back.